Good morning, it's just after 6. Got my morning cup of coffee, and yeah, today we're about to do a 12-hour slow cook of a brisket. So let's get into it. So here's our brisket. It's about 4.5 kilos. Now I'm actually going to take that out and I'm going to leave that on the bench and let that come up to room temperature. It's been in the fridge overnight, and while that's coming up to temperature, we will get the Weber going. Alright, back with you now. Just been preparing the Weber Summit. Here's what we're using today. These are the Kingsford heat beads. These are my choice. A lot cleaner burning, and they've already got your wood chips basically already inside the briquette, so you get that natural hickory wood smoke. There's a few different varieties. There's a hickory, there's a mesquite, and there's also an apple wood as well, so you can sort of play with those tastes a little bit and see how you go. Alright, so we're going to open this bag up and we're going to start getting our heat beads ready, and yeah, by that stage the meat should have come up to room temperature and we can go and start preparing our meat. Okay, so in with our heat beads, and as you can see, much like any other heat bead, you can sort of see the wood fragments in there. So absolutely ideal for low and slow cooking. So when we're trying to aim for that 120 to 130 degrees, these are just perfect. Alright, chuck a few beads in. Now I'm going to spread those beads around. I'm going to try and stack them up around the edges. Alright, pile up relatively high. And this seems to the briquettes seem to fall down upon each other as they're burning, and that tends to help keep reigniting the next one. Okay, so you should be able to see that now. We can got our ring of heat beads in there, and we're going to get the other ones going. We're going to half fill the charcoal starter and get them lit. And then put them in on the end here. Always got to make sure you've got a gap between the two ends, otherwise you'll end up igniting them all and they're burning both directions, and you're not going to get your long duration of time. Okay, so we've got our charcoal starter half full, or just thereabouts, half full. Now these are the highlighters that we've been using. These are the Samba brand wax impregnated sawdust ones that we use. That's all I use, 4 of them, and we'll take them down the back and get them going. Alright, so I've got just a stack of old bricks down the back here, down the back corner of the yard, in the junk pile that I normally use to get these going. So you can already see the burn mark from the previous ones. Let's just light them up, and we'll stick the charcoal starter over the top like so, and now we'll walk away. Best of all, don't inundate the house with smoke while we're starting it. So yeah, works rather well. Morning fishies. Lots of hungry mouths down here this morning that need feeding, but I'll have to wait. We've got a brisket to prepare first. Okay, so opened up our brisket. This is 5.4 kilos, and we're just going to go over it with a nothing flash, just a standard Cajun seasoning rub is all we're going to use on this one, and that seems to, I used it on the last one and it turned out absolutely fantastic. Just spread it around a bit. Always make sure you get good coverage. You can see the marbling in this. A little bit, maybe a little bit fattier than the last one that we did, but yeah, it's only thin fat, so it shouldn't be too bad. But that's pretty well about all it really needs. A little bit more up there perhaps. Don't need a lot of seasoning to really do these justice. Now I've actually left it in the bag, but it was cryovac in, more so because of the fact that I haven't got a board big enough. So, unfortunately these don't come full of juice, so they don't make too much of a mess. Okay, so we can still see our fire lighters are still burning away in there. So whatever they're still burning, I like to sort of leave them and sort of burn all the way through. They're virtually done. When you look at the top of those now, we're starting to really get a bit of flame up and happening. So we're virtually ready to go. So I might put this camera down and come back and grab these beads. Alright, so we've got our heat beads burning away nicely, and you might want to get in. You've always got to watch yourself on these things. Look at these all up. We've got to make sure that we keep that gap between those coals. Okay. Alright, so you can see we've got those heat beads stacked right up nice and high. So we've got our little bit of a gap. Might have done a few extras on what I probably needed, but anyway, we'll move them around and get them up to where they need to be. So always like to try and pile them up as much as you can, and then that way as they burn, the hot embers just drop down and help ignite the next one as it comes through. Right, so that should be pretty well about right. So we're going to our heat deflector plate. This is been an absolute godsend when it comes to slow cooking. It helps push all that heat out and around the sides. Actually, I'll just show you a little bit closer there so you can see what's going on with those beads stacked up in there. But anyway. Alright, so in with our heat deflector plate. This is a Weber product. I'm not sure if there's any generic ones. It stops the heat coming directly up onto the meat and actually sends the heat out through the sides. And you can already start to see the smoke from our beads coming up there. Now, I use an old baking tray. Some of you like to use your tin foil trays. I use this because I get to reuse it all the time. Now I'm going to put our grill in, and then I'm going to go and get some water, and we're going to fill our tray up. Probably going to use about 1.5 litres roughly. I used 2 litres the other day, or actually probably more like 2.5 litres the other day, and it was just a little bit too much. So if you want that gravy and you want those juices and everything falling into that shrimp pan, yeah, don't go overboard on the water. Okay, and I'll close that lid in between, leave our vents open, and that'll just help get things going. Alright, now you can already see we've got our smoke billowing at the top. And this is great. This is what we really want, to be able to put that brisket on and get that lovely smoky flavour through it. Okay, and it won't smoke as intense as that all through. Well, you'll get patches of that throughout the day as you get that slow burn as it moves its way around. Alright, so we've got our water in, we've got our racks in position, and now we're just ready for our brisket. Alright, there you go, 5.4 kilos of brisket, all set up, ready to go. Look, some people like to rub both sides. Personally, I don't. I just rub the top, but everyone's got their own preference when it comes to meat rubs and how they prepare their meat. So this is pretty much up to room temperature. It's sort of been sitting in the fridge overnight, but yeah, I like to get it up to room temperature before we sort of you stick it on. Otherwise it just takes longer for the heat to get through that meat. If it's at room temperature, it's better prepared. So we're going to close our vent. Now this is the Weber Summit series, so it might be a little bit different to what you're using. As you can see, it's 61 centimeters across. We're going to do 12 hours, probably at about with about 4.5 hours to go. We'll wrap up some spuds and sweet potato and maybe a couple of onions and actually put them on the surrounding grill. So yeah, 61 centimeters across versus the standard Weber at 57 makes a huge difference in the amount of available room. So we're going to set our top lid there, roughly to about there. Okay, and down the bottom we'll close that up as well. Okay, so we've adjusted our bottom vent, slide control, to the little symbol that basically indicates we're in the smoking region. Now this is, I didn't get to film this just before because my battery went flat, but here's a bit of an overview. Look at our thermometer, and we're sitting around about that 125 to 130 degree margin. So working away, and you can see those lovely wisps of smoke. Now I reckon the neighbours are going absolutely nuts. Now you can see that tiny wisp of smoke coming up out of the Weber there as it's smoking this brisket away. We're sitting on that 125, 130 degrees. The smell is absolutely incredible, just mind-blowing. So no doubt the neighbours are all getting a good whiff of what's for dinner tonight, and probably all sitting there going, they wish they had an invite to the table as well. But anyway, too bad, all the more for me. Okay, now one of the biggest things is trying to avoid having a peek of what it looks like. Temptation is all too great. We lift that lid, we lose a lot of our surrounding air temperature and also the humidity control that's inside there. So you can get away with picking that lid up a couple of times and having a bit of a quick squeeze, but yeah, alright, I'll do it now. Temptation's got me. So this has been going for probably, yeah, about an hour and a half. And oh, look at that. Look at that, just those juices starting to mellow there, and that'll cook all day long. So here we go, 12-hour slow cook brisket. Okay, something I can't stress enough is the checking this temperature. So we want to run ideally where that black line is there, back down on 125. We're just creeping up a bit at the moment to 130. So we're just going to close this top vent just a smidgen. Doesn't need much. Now it'll probably take about 10 to 15 minutes or so for that temperature to adjust and drop back down. Sometimes you can lift that lid for a sneak peek and exhaust a bit of that excess heat. Okay, that'll help bring that temperature down a little bit quicker. But remember, each time you do lift that lid, you are releasing a lot of that humidity in there that's helping keep the moisture in. So you really want to leave that hood down. And you can see already just by lifting the lid how much variation we've had in temperature already. So that has dropped quite quickly. Alright, so we've just closed that vent up a little bit, and as you saw, that temperature drop before. So this is only 5 minutes, I suppose, time's elapsed. And you can see straight away we're actually back up to where that temperature was prior. So closing up our top vent hasn't been enough. We're obviously getting too much air in. So now it's time to start adjusting down the bottom. And we just need to choke it that little bit more. It doesn't need much movement. Just that tiny little bit is just enough to start to shadow that inlet holes on the bottom of the Weber. Okay, and start to help snuff that fire out a little bit so that we don't get so much increased heat. Okay, so we'll come back and I'll give this another 5 minutes or so, and we'll come back and check it again and just see where that height is. So really important when you are low and slow cooking to keep an eye on that temperature. Pretty much once you get these things set, they'll just carry on all day with no problems whatsoever. But yeah, you do need to keep a close eye on them. Okay, so while this is cooking, I thought I might bring you down the back here and show you something different to help pass the time. This is our grow out section. So as a lot of you are aware, and some of you aren't, we're two businesses in one this day and age. We're Pondworks, and we go out and design, construct and maintain fish ponds. So using natural materials such as rocks and gravel, lift big boulders into place and get that real nice looking natural appearance to an ecosystem pond. One of the sidelines that sort of stemmed out of that was Brisbane Goldfish Specialists, and as we sit here we're feeding some goldfish. We had a bit of a demand come up for customers wanting goldfish, so we embraced it, and today we now breed our own goldfish. We do bring a few of the fancy varieties in, but yeah, it's something that helps keep me off the streets for a little bit. So there's a lot of lemon coloured goldfish in here at the moment. There's also a lot of apricots as well. The lemons don't necessarily fully develop. We've got a lot of comets and a lot of red and white. So we primarily focus on the comet varieties, and trying to breed something that looks a bit like a kahaku or a shoa or a sankey, and really get some colours happening in there. But yeah, so hungry little buggers. But yeah, I thought it'd be a nice little intermission for you. Alright, now temperature's actually bumped up just a little bit, but we're pushing on about 3 o'clock at the moment. Now we've got our veggies over here already prepared, basically pumpkin, potato, sweet potato, all wrapped up in tin foil. So here goes. As I say, I don't like lifting the lid, but this is the one thing we do lift the lid. This probably really should have gone in probably an hour ago. But anyway, look at that. Wow. Absolutely spectacular. So we're just going to pop those veggies in around the edge. This is a good thing about the Summit, because the Summit really does have a lot of room to really allow you to add your veggies in and everything. But yeah, looking good. Alright, so it's about 5:30 and we're rounding up to nearly done time. Well, it probably is done for that matter. But yeah, as I say, we were going for the sort of 12-hour slow cook, and the temperature got up a little bit, which was, look, we started pushing up there of sort of closer to about 140 in there. A little bit higher than I would have liked, but we've got the veggies in there. When I did some veggies last time, it turned out to be, well, they got stuck in the oven for another hour, let's say that much. They weren't quite done. So yeah, so when you're doing your veggies, you probably need about 4 hours at this lower temperature. It does take quite a bit to sort of bake and caramelise that potato. But I'm going to be a bit naughty, and I'm just going to lift the lid quickly and just have a bit of a check. So let's have a bit of a quick look at how things. Oh, geez, look at that! Hey, and that pumpkin's feeling pretty soft. Actually, those potatoes are feeling soft too, so maybe that little increase in heat up to 140 degrees has probably worked rather well. So it shouldn't be too much longer now, and we'll give it a bit more just to be on the safe side. Normally, I sort of find with the weather, around that sort of, you get up to around that 12-hour mark, the heat temperature really starts to fall off, and you'll see this needle just slowly decline, and that's sort of like, some people like to take their brisket out and wrap it up and let it sit and sort of mellow and everything, and I sort of find that the weather of it, there's
drops that temperature slightly, just slightly, pretty much does the same thing, so there's no real need to actually wrap it up, and you can see the juices sitting on there. So anyway, let's see how it goes. Alright, so it's just after 6 o'clock, quarter past, probably pushing on 6:30 actually, so we're pretty well coming in on our 12-hour sort of zone, so which works rather well for the weather. So you can see the temperature here just starting to drop off. We're sort of down around the 100-degree margin, so our cooking's pretty well done, and we're virtually ready to actually look at taking this out. So anyway, I'm going to put this on the tripod so you can see what's going on, and we're going to pull this, I think it's time to pull this brisket out, and yeah, time to get eaten. Okay, here it goes, guys. 12-hour slow cooked brisket. Look at that, and that's remarkable. Alright, now look, these sweet potatoes are just so well caramelised. That's probably been a bit of a bonus from that increased temperature that we saw, up around that 140 sort of degrees after I put these in. I did sort of open it up a little bit to try and increase the heat. Last weekend when I did it, it sat pretty well 120 or so, and struggled to sort of get there. So now everyone's got their own tools and implements that they like to use. I've got a good heavy duty pair of barbecue tongs here, and a good heavy duty stainless steel spatula as well, which works rather well. But that's the veggies out of the way, and now we will remove the meat, and hopefully the oh, look at that juice coming out of there. So the juice level that's in the, wow, this is just unbelievable. This is juicy as, and you can see, I'll show you shortly. Flip this over and look at that remarkable piece of meat, just unbelievable. Get it over there onto the board. Whoa. And let's get that out of the way, and then I'll come back and clean this up. Alright, so we've got our meat out of the way, and we've got our veggies out of the way as well. So the one thing that this drip tray is really good for, in here that we've sort of got our water in, is all our broth is actually in this. So I don't know how well you can see that there, but that is going to make some absolute supreme gravy. So let's get it inside, and let's see what we can do. Okay, so there's still a fair bit of water in this drip tray. We've sort of, I sort of went for about a litre and a half roughly, finding that sort of 2.5 litres that I used last weekend was way too much, but you can still see we've still got a lot of liquid. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put that back on the stove, and I'm actually going to boil it off to get our gravy. So quite quickly to come on the boil, it was pretty warm anyway, and we're just reducing that that excess moisture in there, get back down to our broth, and then we're going to start to add it to the gravy. Alright, so we've reduced our stock down quite considerably. We poured a bit of oil off the top of it. There was a lot of sort of meat juices and sort of fats over the top, but we've really reduced that down. Now I am going to cheat a little bit. I'm using a bit of Maggi gravy mix, and to start our gravy off. So traditionally we'd always use a cornflour and maybe a bit of Vegemite for a bit of added flavour in there, and make up our gravy base from that. But anyway, too lazy to sit there doing that, so we're going to cheat a bit. Okay guys, this is it. We are about to start carving this up, and let's have a look here. I'm going to put our tongs on. Just use a pair of tongs just to hold on to this a little bit, and here we go. So, carving, can't carve it, it's falling apart. Just absolutely falling apart. Now one of the big things too with a brisket or any slice of meat, it's very important as to which way you actually cut it. You can get quite a tough meat if you cut it the wrong way. So very important that you're cutting across the grain. That way when you're chewing, you're only chewing across the short sort of fibres of the muscle. But yeah, look at that, just absolutely spectacular. Alright, so as you can see, it quite literally does look like pulled beef, and I know someone that just can't help herself to get some. Go on, away you go, help yourself. Look at that. Oh, and I bet that's going to taste amazing. Alright guys, there it is, and look at that, absolutely divine. Bit of roast potato and some sweet potato and a bit of bok choy and a bit of bok choy and a bit of broccolini as well. So look at that, which lashings of gravy all over the top of it. Fantastic, bon appetit, and I hope you enjoyed this series, and we'll catch you all soon. Cheers.